Okay, well, thank you very much. I had, through a complex twist of fate, I ended up had the extraordinary good luck of having Donnie Kahneman and Amos Tversky as my doctoral advisors. And one of the many things I learned from Amos was always to have clear hypotheses and be willing to hypotheses that are clear enough to be wrong, and to be willing to admit that that's the case. And one of the many things I learned from Donnie was not to stand between people and their food for too long. So I'm not sure whether you'll have to judge whether I violated the first. It'll be easy to tell whether I violated the second. So the hypothesis that has guided much of this enterprise through the three colloquia is that the problems of this complexity require a community of this complexity, both a diverse set of researchers and a diverse set of practitioners, and it's possible to bring them together and find common language so that people are eager to talk to one another and feel if somebody has neglected your position, it's out of ignorance, not out of willful denial. And so I feel like we're making progress there, and I just thank everybody for their contributions to that. I picked up three themes, some among the many themes that were coming today. Let me just go through them quickly. One behavioral, one organizational, and one societal. And the behavioral one is just the one that Frank was talking about at the end, is that we have these very complex phenomena, and stories are ways to pull together diverse facts into something that people can understand, and it's a useful story if it also evokes people's mental models, their folk theories, their worldviews in a way that it makes sense to them. They have a warranted feeling of self-efficacy, and they can generate appropriate conclusions from their own first principles. And there's research that we can do to make that happen. And in order to do that, we have to have a sustained dialogue with the people who we're trying to talk to. So these are stories and issues relevant to their concerns. The organizational one is one that Corey mentioned most recently, that we need institutional changes in what academic institutions reward, and what supports are provided for people who want to take a scientific approach to science communications. For example, like the kind of program that Frank has, and the kinds of support people need are how to decode this, how to access the scientific literature and decode it so you know what are the implicit assumptions that people in a field don't even think to mention, or to deal with the kind of hype issues that Dr. Proteus mentioned. For that, I recommend David Allison and his colleagues have a really fascinating obesity and energetics offerings newsletter. I think it's an interesting, sustained attempt to demythologize a very complex issue area. People need also help in how to evaluate their own work in a way that is acceptable to them, and realizing that their intuitions might be wrong when they design communications or make assumptions about their audiences. And we need venues for the kind of sustained interpersonal ties, shared experiences, trust, and empathy that enable us to speak with legitimacy to our audiences. And then finally, on the societal level, where we have these potentially very polarized issues, it's important to get ahead of the issues with information and with relationships before things spin out of control. It's important for us to do our due diligence, that we've done everything possible to get a fair hearing for our scientists, so we don't do a lousy job and then blame the audience and political hysteria or the innumeracy of the public or whatever. And then finally, we as scientists, we all need help in decoding the kind of complicated social processes within which these things take place. So we need to understand when it is more important for people to express group solidarity than to accept the fact that is absolutely at the center, to endorse a fact that's absolutely at the center of our scientific life. And we need to know the situations in which the facts are collateral damage to other processes, and finally, we need to understand those situations where where we're part of the problem in mixing our preferred solutions to the problems that we're describing. So I'll end with a small anecdote on risk communication. Early in 2015, my sister, the doctor, who's a pediatrician at a large medical organization on the West Coast, was required to ask all of her clients whether they had been to West Africa or Disneyland. So thank you all for coming and for your participation.